Ridiculous! It's perfectly safe. We are about to bear witness to the birth of a universe. Once, only a god could perform such a miracle. But today, mankind moves one step closer to the divine!
Yes!
When Klaus performed his phase transition experiment, his body was torn asunder. One half remained on Earth, while the other was flung into a completely different universe. In this new universe, this new lower domain, the half of Klaus present here is known as Zanza. His counterpart, Galea, becomes Maneth. These two are gods of this new world. They hold dominion over all that they create. However, they do not remember who they were before their lives as gods. They are also seemingly unaware of the presence of Ontos, who possesses power far exceeding theirs. Ontos watches the two from afar for many millennia to come. In this pocket dimension, Zanza and Maneth create a world of endless ocean with a boundless sky, in which a new building block for life, ether, is utilized. This powerful new element is present in every single living organism. In this world, Zanza and Maneth take the form of two massive titans of unimaginable scale, the Bionis and Mechonis. They rule these worlds with the power of their swords, their Monados. Among its vast array of powers, a Monado is able to predict the flow of ether, which in turn shows the user visions of the future. It's also able to entirely change its form based on the will of its user. Over the course of tens of thousands of years, they both mold life, which appears on their gargantuan bodies in their own image. Maneth creates the Machina, an advanced race of humanoid machine people, while Zanza creates many races, most of which originate from a single ancestor. But the ones of most importance are the Giants, large biological humanoids, Homs, smaller humanoids, and the Telethia, beings of almost pure ether. Eventually, on a whim, Zanza confers intelligence upon the Telethia, creating another new species known as the Hyentia. This species is given a gene by Zanza that forcibly transforms them into Telethia when exposed to high concentrations of ether. The purpose of this is to be able to return them to their original forms when needed. Most of these races live far longer than the humans on Earth did. Hyentia live for hundreds of years, while Giants and Machina live for thousands. At some point, another race, known as Napon, appear. They typically keep to themselves, and many of them belong to nomadic trading groups. They eventually come upon an enormous tree that they later hollow out and live in. This place is dubbed Frontier Village by them, and will provide shelter to the species for generations to come. Meanwhile, Hyentia society had begun spanning across several regions of the Bionis, such as Valak Mountain and Satoral Marsh. Remnants of their presence will be seen thousands of years after they leave these areas through the architecture that they left behind. Based on several artifacts and locations found by researchers, the Giants likely lived under a monarchy similar to the Hyentia. Due to the Machina's worship of their goddess, Lady Maneth, it's likely that they had a theocracy. One day, a Machina boy named Egil is born to Mikkel, an influential man in Machina society. Egil and his sister Vanea are looked upon by many Machina as pillars of the community. Egil in particular is seen as strong but kind to the less able. He is a brilliant and thoughtful man, and his engineering skills would eventually become some of the best in all of Mechonis. Eventually, the lives that Maneth and Zanza created began to interact. Upon their meeting, the Machina share the fruits of their labor with the Giants and Hyentia. Around this time, the capital cities of Bionis and Mechonis are built. Alcamoth resides on the head of the Bionis, floating above Aerith Sea. The city is home mostly to Highentia. Agniratha similarly was constructed inside the head of the Mechonis. Both capitals are sprawling architectural marvels, especially for the time. This would begin an era of peace and harmony that would continue for thousands of years. Unfortunately, it would not last forever. One day, while staring off into the horizon, Egil and his giant friend Arglas have an extremely thought-provoking conversation.
Have you never thought about it? Never contemplated what lies beyond this world?
Beyond this world? Lady Meyneth once said that aside from the Bionis and the Mechonis, this world is filled with nothing but boundless ocean.
But what lies beyond that? We are still young and unable to leave the Bionis or the Mechonis. Say goodbye to our creators, our world. But one day our descendants will. They will leave this place and depart for new worlds, worlds we have never imagined, by strength of their will alone.
Leave this place? That is something I have never considered. However, it would be a truly amazing sight.
Egil, I wish to see that the people of Bionis and the people of Mechonis live in peace and harmony and take care of one another. I wish this for the future of our descendants.
Yes, I too desire this, Arglas.
This line of thinking began to worry Xenza. If the denizens of his world were able to achieve these goals, his influence and power would diminish. Much of his and Meyneth's power come from the ether returned to them when their creations die on the Titans. Not only that, but they each need a host body in order to maintain a physical form. But as Arglas has made apparent, the people of Bionis have begun considering what life would be like away from their creators, away from Xenza. So, Xenza enacted a plan to destroy and rebuild the universe again, without Meyneth and only him at the center. He believed that if he could remove all unpredictable variables, he would be able to perpetuate his existence without issue for all eternity. But the fact of the matter is, Xenza didn't want to just rule. In his own twisted way, he truly had a desire for friendship with the lives he created, one that he hopes can be fulfilled alongside this plan. At some point, Arglas comes across Xenza's Monado on the Bionis' shoulder and decides to pick it up. It's not known why. It may have been his curious mind or even Xenza's influence. But regardless, when he does, Xenza is able to take complete and total control over him. With his plan now in motion, Xenza, now in Arglas' body, recruits 3 disciples to further his agenda. Dixon, a giant, Lorithia, a Highentia, and a Homs going by the name Alvis, the latter of whom is actually Ontos in physical form. Xenza begins his assault on Mechonis by setting the Telethia upon Agniratha. They begin killing innocent civilians en masse. The death toll was incalculable. Eventually, the fight between Xenza and Meyneth escalates to a boiling point. The two of them use the power of their titans and their Monados to do battle. They become locked in combat for what must have felt like an eternity to those present. Eventually, Xenza is able to strike a devastating blow to Meyneth. He manages to cut off the left arm of the Mechonis. Using the very last of her strength, Meyneth lodges her sword into the Bionis' waist, crippling Xenza. In doing this, she left herself vulnerable, and Xenza used this opportunity to strike at the Mechonis' head. Now, with the both of them critically injured, the Titans fall dormant, and both gods go into hiding. After the fighting, the survivors attempted to care for their wounded. All citizens of the Bionis and Mechonis felt the immense loss of the lives of their friends, family, and the peace that had been cultivated. Agniratha in particular was almost entirely destroyed. At the center of this destruction stood Egil, devastated. Something snapped in him that day. He had watched on in horror as the Bionis launched a completely unprovoked attack on their lives. So many Machina had been needlessly killed in the conflict, and it sickened him. Egil vowed that the Bionis would pay for what it had done, that Zanza would pay for every single life lost. Egil then declared himself as leader of Mechonis and prepared to attack and eliminate Zanza before he had any chance to strike his home again. If he could just kill every life form on Bionis and take their bodies off of the Titan, Zanza would not have the energy to stand against him and Maineth. He has no grudge against the people of Bionis. He does not want to cause suffering. But this is a necessary evil in his mind. With Zanza alive, there can be no peace for the people of Mechonis. Any Machina that attempted to stop him was eliminated on the spot. Nothing, not even his brethren, would prevent him from getting his revenge. His life's goal is to now rid the world of the tyranny of the Bionis. The remaining Machina all fled to and began living on the severed arm of the Mechonis, now laying at the foot of the Titan. All of them, that is, except for Vinea. Vinea hated what Egil was doing, but she couldn't bring herself to abandon him. So she stays by his side and works against him in subtle ways, trying to do right by their goddess, Lady Maineth, who warns the Machina that Zanza will attack again before plunging into a deep slumber. While Zanza was still weak from the battle, the High Entia located him and took advantage of the situation by sealing Arglas' body away in Prison Island, a floating black tower located on the head of the Bionis. The Monado, containing Zanza's soul, was taken to a place known as Osse Tower at Valak Mountain. It is at this point that the High Entia begin taking measures to rid themselves of the Telethia gene. They had figured out that Zanza's creation of the Telethia was extremely deliberate. Their main purpose was to kill all life on the Bionis that resisted Zanza's wish for a cycle of destruction and recreation. Whether or not the High Entia knew about the details of the situation is unclear, but it's obvious that many of them did not want to become Telethia because they would completely lose their sense of selves and become mindless beasts. The giant population began to decline in number over the years. Eventually, the species goes completely extinct, save for Dixon and Arglas, who is still possessed by Zanza on Prison Island. Whether this is due to their ongoing war with the spiders of Bionis, their possible assimilation with Homs, or a combination of the two, is unknown. Either way, the giants disappeared and essentially became replaced by Homs. Around this time, the High Entia have determined what needs to be done to remove the Telethia gene from their DNA. They posit that if they were to make an effort to crossbreed with Homs for an extended period of time, the genetic code instructing their bodies to transform would dissipate. So moving forward, it was decided that each subsequent High Entian emperor or empress would take 2 partners, one of High Entian descent and one of Homs descent. This is done to preserve the pure bloodline, while also giving their species the chance to survive should all the others transform one day. Many citizens also have Homs partners, as evidenced by their smaller wings. However, larger wings do not always indicate the presence of pure High Entian parentage. In tandem with these changes, the royal family constructs the High Entia tomb, a location which is used to preserve their history and determine how integrated Hom's DNA is with that of the High Entia. A small faction within their society, though, vehemently disagreed with these changes. They believed that if the Bionis created them with the purpose of transforming, that they should accept their fates and resign themselves to the will of their god. This group of Bionis-worshipping zealots became known as the Bionite Order. Over time, the Order would escalate its behavior far past that of a religious organization, and began committing acts of violence in furtherance of their goals. Eventually, though, the Bionite Order was forcibly dissolved by Emperor Lumion, 47th ruler of the High Entia. And while thought to be no more, the Order continued to operate in the shadows for many centuries to come. It would seem that, over that time, general awareness of the Telethia gene faded, so only those in the royal family or other positions in high society knew of it. Meanwhile, Egil had reconstructed the severed arm of the Mechonis, and prepared an army to invade the Bionis. The army is composed not of machina, but automatons known as Mechon. Egil had transformed major parts of the Mechonis interior into a factory designed to mass produce these robots. There are at least 100 different models of Mechon, but the one thing that they all share is their near impenetrable armor. Ironically enough, the only weapon currently capable of effectively piercing a Mechon's armor is that of Zanza's, his Monado. But since the High Entia had sealed the Monado away, his army had no clear weakness. But then Egil began to ponder on this point. What if the Monado was used despite this? What if Zanza was able to wield the mighty sword again? Trembling at the thought, Egil began drawing up the designs for a weapon that exploits the Monado's single weakness: its inability to harm beings born from Zanza. In other words, all intelligent life on Bionis is immune to its blade. So Egil started the creation of what would eventually become the Faced Mechon. Back on the Bionis, the High Entia have begun constructing an immense defense system around Alchemoth to ward off all incoming attacks from the Mechonis. A long-held prophecy of theirs foretells an attack from the Mechonis, and they want to be ready for it. And sure enough, they were correct. Egil finally begins his assault after thousands of years of planning. His attacks are relentless and visceral. Egil's Mechon will wreak havoc on Bionis for hundreds of years. Eventually, Lorithia of Zanza's Trinity reemerges and begins working at Alchemoth's Ministry of Research. She also joins the remnants of the Bionite Order. Alvis has reappeared as well, and becomes the royal family's trusted seer. Their mission is to make sure that the High Entia properly adhere to the destiny that Zanza has set out for them. They will transform when the time is right. Homs have also begun growing in number and start setting up colonies around the Bionis, though many are fated for oblivion due to the threat of Mechon, despite the formation of their small military forces. By the time the dust settles, only 2 of the roughly 10 colonies are left, likely due to their strategic placement on the Bionis body. Colony 9, located on the left ankle of the Bionis, and Colony 6, which is found on the waist of the Bionis. These positions allow for the best possible defense against Mechon attacks. By now, the High Entia and Hom civilizations have no memory that the Machina, Mainith, or Zanza even exist, and believe the Mechonis to be an evil entity that only churns out Mechon. In fact, the Homs have also largely forgotten that High Entia exist, since they seldom leave the safety of Alchemoth and its surrounding islands. The original battle between the Bionis and Mechonis has become all but a myth, and the details are completely lost to time for the people of Bionis. One day, a group of Homs begins searching for the legendary Monado. It's unknown how they came to learn about it, since it has been hidden for thousands of years, but it's possible that the stories of the sword have been passed down through the generations. Considering that Zanza's disciple Dixon, now disguised as a Homs, accompanies the researchers on their quest, it's likely that he spread the lie that it was created solely to destroy Mechon. Either way, the Monado truly does damage Mechon armor, and can enchant others with the power to do so. So if the Homs can get their hands on it, they theorize that they could destroy the Mechon once and for all. This small band of Homs scoured the Bionis, searching for the Monado. They search for so long that eventually a young boy, Shulk, is born on the expedition. After about 6 years of searching, the team finally stumbles upon Ase Tower. Shulk is about 4 years old when they come upon the ruins. The Monado is in the exact spot that the High Entia left it all those years ago. Unfortunately, this was part of Zanza's plan. All of this was shown to him in a vision before his host body was even confined to Prison Island. Zanza's soul still remained within the Monado, and when the Homs entered Ase Tower, he drained the life from each and every one of them, except Dixon. Zanza then inhabits Shulk's lifeless corpse and makes him appear alive. He plans to live inside Shulk's body until the fateful day in which he is able to return to full power.